Ashley? I do not have a Duncan emoji yet. Have not made one. But he also hasn't made his appearance yet. Yeah, Soulflare, in theory, this is where I want to do my painting. Still working on smoothing out the transition, but Jesse, you talking about the game last night? You guys can't hear me? Is that true? Can nobody hear me? You guys should be able to hear me. Thanks for the confirmation. I have to. I'm. The reason I know is because I pay attention to it, and maybe I just need to slightly boost this cable for some reason. It's a little bit. It feels lower over here. Could be wrong, but it feels lower over here. It's a bit quiet. I agree. Same mic, same everything, but I have to disconnect it from that side of the room to a different cable on this side of the room. That's the only thing that changes. I don't know enough about audio stuff to think like why should an XLR thing change, but I can turn it up a little bit. And then a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, I'll have to. Music makes me sound quieter. It should be. I'm just making small. Oh, there we go. That was almost too much, I think. All right. Maybe we can make that kind of work. I don't know. It's added to the list of things to tweak. Hey Jade, Lex, Eli, headphone jump scare. Sorry about that. So yeah, part 2's been great. Been really enjoying playing The Last of Us 2 for the first time. Fine now. Cool. Things are good. Let's see. So I want to do. I might just do all of this brown. Do I want to do all of it brown? XY is the livestock dog. Did I miss something? I may have. You know, smaller pigments, more valuable in smaller quantities, last longer. Hard to say. Who knows if it actually, like, if there's anything about it that actually has more in terms of raw materials, but the people who are using it, like, it is, if it can demand a higher price, then the market will generally allow it to, and those things do. Oh, I see. I mean, I don't know what all of those things mean, but at least that makes sense. My recommendation would be get individual paints, so that individual miniature paints, so you're spending less money. Like, go to a game store and pick out the colors you need for like a specific thing you're painting, and just try to get like a color or two at a time to keep the prices low. You're gonna spend a lot more time being frustrated if you use the wrong type of paints. They're worth the cost when you're talking about miniature painting. Yep, that's about my experience too. It's like buying a coffee, depending on what kind of coffee you. That's true. Speed paints. To put it another way, speed paints will usually pretty convincingly make your stuff look really good without you having to spend years getting good first, which is nice. It's like dry brushing. It's like a product version of dry brushing where it's like, just do this one thing and all of your stuff's gonna look a lot better with, relatively no effort. Just use speed paints. It takes some time to figure out, at least in my experience, it took some time to figure out how to use them right. But from what you've seen, miniature paints behave kind of like other pigmented watercolors. Looking at miniature paints, but there's one I haven't checked out. Okay. Yeah, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, do whatever makes you happy. I'm just relaying my experience. I'm painting right now with cheap acrylics to cover this foam, and I could never get anything halfway decent using these on miniatures. It would be a bad time. It's really unusual for me to ever paint anything like that's partially already painted and finished like this. It's kind of strange. I normally kind of wait to paint everything all at one time. This project I'm trying, it's such a big project, I'm trying to divvy it all up more. Which I think has been good. It helps a lot. Yeah, so the black is mostly to get I water it way down, and I'm trying to get into every little nook and cranny. It's also sort of just acting as a kind of an evening undercoat, I guess. But there are just so many, some of which won't even probably show up on the camera, but there are just so many little spots where I don't want there to be green. I'd rather it be black. I'll probably use brown for the wood, but everything else I'll do is black, just because that's definitely going to be brown anyway. To some extent, though, it's half of one, six of one, half a dozen of another. Because if I was to say, like, oh, I want this outer ring to be like this slate gray color, I could just start with that. But I'm probably going to need to do 2 coats of it to make sure that there's none of the green showing through. Like you can see with a black coat, there's still going to be green coming through, but then when I come through with whatever the next coat is on them, there won't be anything that shows through. It's just going to make certain colors darker, which is better than green color or white color if you're using the foam core. You can really do a first coat in whatever you want. 6 dozen is way better than half of one. Can't argue with that. Also thinking before speaking. Thank you, Shreens. Appreciate that. Sorry, I need to talk directly into the mic on this cable for some reason. It's just a little bit weaker than or something. Honestly, if I probably spent a couple minutes, maybe this is something I'll change for next time. I could probably use the exact same cable. Just change the position of my mic, but run the cable over. Anyway, figure it out. That's true. Jesse's very good at painting miniatures. that'll be awesome, Eli. Getting closer. These boards are where it's really important to get this kind of burnt umber brown down in between the boards, so that, because I leave slight gaps between them because I just think it looks better that way, and if they're like pressed tightly together. It's a fine line to walk, but I think it just looks generally better. But that means we have to paint in between them. That's a good first step, right? The other thing about painting foam terrain is that foam can really soak up paint, which I think makes it kind of a more forgiving process than painting other stuff. Like you have to really try hard to screw up that bad with painting foam. I mean, it does a little bit, but it's I still kind of, and maybe soaking it up is not the right way to describe it, but yeah, I Mod Podge it first as well. I still think it does. Just drinks the paint just a little bit. But keep in mind, I'm also describing that while doing like the most textured, like each of these pieces with like a wire brush, like grooves are into it. So no matter how much, like unless I really destroyed the detail, there are lots of spaces for paint to sink into. I think one of the easiest ways to improve painting foam terrain stuff is just to introduce more variation of color or wood boards. you know, this is just using umber and a lot of like black paint that's just sort of splashed onto it, but already you can see like, and we can definitely push that further, but that uniform flat brown, it just always looks bad on wood boards. That's just not what wood looks like, you know. Okay, so we do have some wood here. Oh, cool, Lex. Yeah, I've never even tried any of those techniques. I definitely know with trying to bring more character out of like gray or really any color stone work, sort of having a base and then coming over it with different, you know, different shades or watered down paint even, and just kind of creating colorful streaks in it before kind of doing final coats and dry brushing and washes and stuff like that can really help to add a lot to stone. Soul Flare, I will add really just enough for it to be seen. I don't think you can. I don't think there really is a wrong amount. Because the point of the black paint in the Mod Podge or the brown paint, if you want to use a brown Mod Podge, whatever you want to use, you know, you can see the effects here on this. The effect is not doesn't have to do very much, but everywhere that it's tinted here, I can tell that I already applied Mod Podge, so I don't have to do it again. For me, that's the main purpose, because I'm gonna start painting it after the fact. I'm gonna do all sorts of work to it after the Mod Podge step. So put in as much as you need and mix in as much as you need to be able to see it when you're painting it out. You know, you're not going to overdo it with the glue. It doesn't have to be like a 50-50 mix or anything like that. Like, as long as you have some black paint or some whatever paint in there, mix it up. If it's coming out and you can see it, because the problem with regular Mod Podge is that it's transparent and you're not going to know what you've already painted. So as long as you can see where you're applying it, you've got enough paint. I love this burnt umber color. Oh, where is my, yeah. Still getting used to these angles over here. Actually, let me do, there is more wood on this. Almost forgot. There's got spoiled switching to a crystal themed. Yeah. Yeah, crystals, there are a couple different ways to go about making those. I think you can sort of whittle them out of chunks of foam. I think that's what I've done most recently. Just cut in those sort of like kind of fractal, you know, harsh angles and cut away anything that doesn't look like a crystal, right? I think the last crystal I probably carved up, I don't know if you can see it or not, probably not on this camera angle. The crystal that is connected to the front of my arcane boat, so the crystal that makes it fly, in theory. Yeah, I've never tried it with hot glue sticks before, but I'm pretty sure I've seen that mentioned. Nice part with that too is you can get different colors of glue stick. Could speed up that process maybe. To hold up here. Big Boy wants to say hi. Indeed, the cat. I've never worked with borax before. Oh, good. Okay, well, I'll order some. That could be neat. I've never tried anything like that before, but there's a first time for everything. Hey Vigo, welcome to the stream. There's also some pretty solid stuff out there. You can 3D print. That's what I have done before too, in addition to carving them. I do. I use almost exclusively. I use this. That sorry, it's kind of dark. Need another light. I like the Army Painter brush on primer. I've tried to get disciplined on using like spray primers and stuff. People say that it's better for this or that, or like zenithal, blah blah blah, but here's what I value. I don't have to get up. If I'm here painting and I have a chance to prime, I can prime it at the table. I don't have to worry about weather or setting stuff aside and like doing it in big batches and then, oh yeah, I left it outside and now I need to go get it. And I just hate all of that part of the process. I prefer any workflow that lets me sort of lock in, be here when I'm crafting, and then know that it'll be here drying and ready later. Maybe at some point I'll set up like a spray booth for stuff like that, but I don't have anything like that right now. I'm not inherently opposed to it. I just gotten used to using the brush on stuff. It works pretty well for me. Sorry, I'm back. It's true. The right tools make all the difference. By the by, there is a link to my website with all of my recommended tools, some of which are affiliate links. A lot of them are not. Just because I couldn't find an affiliate link for something doesn't mean I didn't recommend it. It's basically everything that I put on the table, everything that I use is up there somewhere. And there's only a couple of mistakes that have been there for ages. So the brush-on primer basically works just like paint. So you just paint it on, wait for it to dry, it's primed. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, what's that? Yeah, it's a great idea. There's some really cool, I think, inspiration out there from vertical stuff. I've made some cliffs. I have some like cliff terrain based off of a Black Magic craft tutorial, but I've never done like the magnet climbing idea. I think it could be really fun though. Even if you had magnets, the other issue is stability, making sure everything's secure. Really doesn't feel good to have stuff fall that you've made, you know? That's the true next level. Yes. Who cares what happens to us? It's just about the craft, right? It's just about that experience at the table. Case in point, whether I go black first or do brown, like you can see actually even some of the like print on it. I'll have to hit this with per number again. I just know it. Less so with those boards, but hey, what's up, Fernando? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the stream. I'm glad to hear that. I will definitely keep it going. I do this stuff entirely too often, so hopefully a lot more that'll help you at some point. Yeah. What kind of stuff are you wanting to make, or have you made, Fernando? Awesome. Tiles are a good way to start. I've not made that many actually dungeon tiles for myself. Like I don't have my own set of typical, sort of the stereotypical gray tiles. I haven't made those for myself yet. It's a big project I need to tackle. Cool, Eli. Just carve carefully. All right. Well, when everything is set up the way that I want it to, it'll be as easy as flip a switch and come over here and be painting. But for now, I'm starting to make it easier to transition. Still working on my camera angles and niceties of... Honestly, I need to get another mug warmer over here for my coffee because that's like the worst of it. I want to figure out this mic thing if I can, but we're getting there. We've got enough angles to work with. I can iterate on all of this. You know, baby steps, one or two improvements each time. There's plenty of stuff to be painting. So, all right, so everything here that was Mod Podged and ready to paint has gotten a first coat. This is the second floor. That's a piece of the steps going to the second floor. This is the first floor. This is a wall, utility wall on the first floor, and this is the extension. This ring, this C-shaped thing is the extension to the floor. Nothing too awesome yet, but I think next I'll need to be picking some colors. I want to make this a very cozy, warm stone next to these boards especially, so that's what we'll paint next time. Hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully I can get some time tomorrow. Vico, you want to start being a dungeon master this year? You don't even know where to start. Any ideas for engaging new players? Well, it's a good question. Sometimes it's as simple as thinking about, so like, I like to try to demystify being a dungeon master. It's not about the rules. It's not about having mastery of all Dungeons and Dragons lore. Most of it I don't know. Most of the rules I look up. Like the stuff that I haven't, I guess, internalized over, 6 or 7 years of doing this. Really, I think dungeon masters are party planners. That's what we do. That's what designing D&D games is. We want to cultivate a certain type of experience, whatever that party is. Maybe it's maybe one of those parties is going to be more active than another one, in which case there's going to be a lot of stuff going on at the table. Other times maybe this one's more low key, more getting to know you type of party that we're planning, and that's going to be more role play focused. But whatever that is, the principle underlying all of it is all we can do is set the table effectively, whether it's virtual or in person. All we can do is kind of put everything in there and do our best to sort of nudge everybody into a positive. The players are going to probably bring more to the party most of the time than we are. So sometimes I'll think about what kind of game would I find really engaging? What kind of game would I find really fun? There's nothing wrong with playing and leaning into cliches and tropes. Start your party in a tavern. It's totally fine, but maybe something weird happens in this tavern, or there's some aspect of it that, you've never experienced in a game before, but you think would be really fun. Feel free to get inspired, and sometimes it helps I sort of have interview sessions with my party ahead of time, like what are their favorite stories, movies, book series, like what inspires them to play D&D. Sometimes they're brand new to the game, in which case things are sort of open-ended. Other times they bring, maybe not baggage, but they bring a lot with them to the game, and it's good to be aware of that kind of stuff. I like questions. I like interesting questions and things to investigate where I don't necessarily always know where the story's going. And that doesn't mean twists necessarily. That just means that there's a sequence of events that happened and we haven't uncovered what they are. And once we do, that'll be very satisfying. Like that is how a lot of my sort of big ideas happen at the table. And sometimes it's a couple in a session, right? It's you go into a room, you see a scene, you figure out what it's all about, and by figuring it out, now you can continue forward. Sometimes it's just a room puzzle. Other times it's a big sweeping crazy puzzle that they've got to uncover like Indiana Jones and figure out this 1,000-year-old mystery. It really just depends. But all of it comes from me going like, okay, well, back to my party analogy, what kind of party do I want to hang out at? What kind of experiences do I want to have at the table that that I'm going to be excited to like tell people about and I'm going to be thinking about. And so sometimes that's like, well, boy, it would be really fun for me, like as a player, to be able to solve a really tricky puzzle that I don't have to solve. Like I would love to have an impact on the game in a way. I think it would be neat to solve something that didn't have to, we weren't stuck. It's not like anything couldn't happen until we solved this. But because I went out of my way and solved it, which feels like sort of Indiana Jones or sort of like Discover, archaeology type of thing. Because I did that, I changed the nature of the game and the world that we're in and opened up this new thing for us. I was like, that feels like a fun idea, so I put that in my game. Or, it's interesting to face these sort of moral dilemmas and figure out what the characters are going to do. So maybe there's 2 or 3 factions that all sort of disagree and the party sort of has to go one way or the other. I find that to be really interesting to talk about that stuff with other people and try to figure out what we can forge. Maybe there's a 4th way that the party can create or that I could be a part of creating. So I just think about those types of things, those types of situations. Obviously, really interesting, you know, combat scenarios can be fun. We've been playing The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. I just started The Last of Us Part 2 for the first time last night, and that game has so many inspiring combat encounters. You know, snipers' nests and multiple different factions in some cases are like where the odds are really stacked against you, or when you have the entire thing laid out and you get to choose how you want to approach it. And I think all of those are that's really fun inspiration for D&D also. Every campaign that I run, I do a prologue session before the campaign starts. I think it's a bit of a cheat as a DM to do this, but I think it works really well and it's fun for everybody. Figuring out all of the characters, and basically I in the process of figuring out all the characters, obviously we have like sort of a session 1 that's planned, you know, out there some date in the future. And usually about a month prior to that, I'll start scheduling with the players to say, okay, each one of you, like, let's pick a one-on-one session time, right? Which sounds scary. But the idea is that this sort of prologue or sort of prequel session is going to set them up for that session 1. It's going to establish their character in the world. It's going to help them kind of figure themselves out, and it gives you a chance to really make some story beats that are just for that character. And again, that comes from, like, if I was playing a character, if I was in a game as a player, I would find that really interesting. Is there really a piece of this story thread that's just my characters? That if these 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or however many characters didn't come together at exactly this moment, what couldn't have happened? So I'll run, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or however many are necessary solo sessions with each character, with each player, and then kind of all of those go into that first session together and sort of explains how they all got there. Sometimes it brings them right up to that very moment where they all meet. Had one time that ended with all of the characters ending up in the Waterdeep or in a cemetery as they were watching these humanoid frogs rebury a grave. And so they were all basically witness to this sort of like strange crime in the middle of the night. And that first session picked up in the middle of that and them trying to sort out, you know, who was responsible for all that. That was a fun and ambitious idea for a beginning of a campaign. That was a lot. I don't know if that's helpful or not. But if that's where your thoughts are, Vico, like how to engage players, how to get started as a DM, and you want to talk about that stuff more, that's the kind of stuff that I love to talk about every day. Obviously, I could just wax on about it for a while. So hope you keep bringing your questions. Hopefully you get to be a DM this year. It's really fun. I like playing the game, but I really like being a dungeon master more, for sure. And Eli, that should be a short. I don't know if it's not short enough to be a short, maybe, but I could make it a long short. I could make it a medium. Okay, well, yep, everything here painted will dry. I've got plan is to play more Last of Us tonight. That'll be in about 3 hours. We'll see how that goes, and hopefully back into some crafting stuff tomorrow, earlier in the day, but we'll see how that goes. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for the great questions and thoughts and ideas. Catch you guys next time. Oh, and if you want to join the Discord, if you're a lurker, or if you're here and you're not in there, all these same names and people are in there talking, doing all sorts of cool stuff when we're not on stream together. So it's a great place to be. See you, Eli. Thanks, Vico. Thanks, everybody else. Catch you guys later.